This is the story of a car that was born with a split personality. On the outside, it was a picture of class and elegance, all long, flowing lines, rich chrome, and quiet luxury, the kind of car a wealthy gentleman would drive to a fine restaurant. But hidden beneath that beautiful, tailored suit was the raging heart of a brutal muscle car, packing one of the biggest, meanest engines Chevrolet ever built. For 2 brief, glorious years, it was the perfect blend of muscle and manners. And then, almost overnight, the muscle was ripped out of it, leaving behind a soft, hollow shell of what it once was. It became a symbol of everything that was lost when a golden age died. This is the story of how the Chevrolet Monte Carlo lost its soul. It is a tale of a car that did not die a sudden, violent death like so many others. Instead, it suffered something almost sadder. It was slowly declawed, tamed, and softened, year by year, until the fierce animal it once had been completely erased. And the most tragic part of all, the more its soul was stripped away, the more popular it became. To understand this car, you have to understand what Chevrolet was trying to do when they created it in 1970. Most muscle cars of the era were loud, aggressive, and stripped down for young hot rodders. They were all about raw speed and attitude. But Chevrolet spotted a different opportunity. What if you could take all that glorious muscle car power, but wrap it in something far more sophisticated, more comfortable, and more grown-up? What if you build a muscle car for a gentleman? And so the Monte Carlo was born. It shared much of its underlying structure with the legendary Chevelle, but Chevrolet stretched it, refined it, and dressed it up. They gave it the single longest hood in the entire history of Chevrolet, a hood so long and so dramatic it made the car look like it was moving even when standing still. Inside, there was wood grain trim, a dignified dashboard, and an air of refinement you simply did not get in a normal muscle car. And in a strange twist of foreshadowing, that long, wide, imposing body with its bulging fenders and minimal trim actually made the Monte Carlo look a little like a stock car, and years later, its long wheelbase would make it a genuine NASCAR legend on the oval tracks. Chevrolet marketed it beautifully, calling it a fine car at a Chevrolet price. But do not let that classy exterior fool you, because this gentleman had a serious dark side. Because tucked under that magnificent, mile-long hood, you could order one of the most fearsome engines of the entire muscle car era. It was the mighty 454 cubic inch big block V8 in a potent form known as the LS5. And this thing was a monster. It produced a thundering 360 horsepower and a colossal 500 pound-feet of torque. To create the true performance version, Chevrolet offered a special package that added this big block beast along with heavy-duty suspension, front and rear sway bars, beefier springs and shocks, and power front disc brakes to help rein it all in. They called it the SS 454, and the result was something truly special. Unlike the loud, stripe-covered muscle cars of the day, this one was beautifully understated. There were no wild graphics screaming for attention, just a subtle chrome rocker molding and a small, discreet badge near the front fender, quietly hinting at the beast that lay within. It looked like a luxury cruiser, but it could launch from 0 to 60 in around 7 seconds and blast down the quarter mile in under 15. It was in the truest sense a sleeper in a tuxedo, a car that could pull up to a country club looking perfectly respectable and then absolutely humiliate a stripped-down muscle car at the next stoplight. This first version, from 1970, was the absolute high-water mark of the breed. With relatively high compression and the full, unrestricted power of that era, it was as good as it would ever get. But here's a fascinating detail that shows just how exclusive this car was. Despite the fact that it was a genuine big block bruiser wrapped in luxury, it was actually quite rare. In that first year, only around 3,800 of these SS 454 models were built. It was never a big seller, and part of that was by design. Chevrolet had positioned it as an upscale, exclusive machine, not a mass-market street brawler. And there are whispers, unconfirmed legends that swirl among collectors to this day, of an even wilder version fitted with the almighty LS6 engine, rumored to have been built in the tiniest of numbers, though no one has ever been able to fully prove one truly existed from the factory. Whether real or myth, It only adds to the mystique of this rare and special machine. But the storm clouds were already gathering, and this beautiful car was about to be strangled slowly and deliberately, right before everyone's eyes. The very next year, in 1971, the first cracks appeared. New emissions regulations were coming into force, forcing automakers to lower the compression of their engines so they could run on lower-octane, unleaded fuel. And every time you lower compression, you choke the engine, robbing it of its ferocity. The mighty 454 was detuned. On top of that, a lengthy labor strike at the factory dramatically cut how many cars could even be built. So production of the SS 454 plummeted, dropping to fewer than 2,000 cars. The gentleman was starting to lose his strength. And then came the moment that truly signaled the beginning of the end. After 1971, Chevrolet did something quiet but devastating. They killed the SS package entirely. That legendary SS 454 badge, the one that promised a big block monster lurking beneath the luxury, simply vanished from the order sheet. It would not return for over a decade. For 1972, you could technically still get a big block engine in your Monte Carlo, but the special performance package that tied it all together, the suspension, the brakes, the identity, was gone. In that same year, the way horsepower was measured officially changed to a more realistic system, and suddenly, on paper, the numbers looked pathetic. An engine that once proudly advertised its might now showed figures that were a shadow of the glory days. To give you an idea of how brutal this was, a big block that had once been rated at well over 350 horsepower would soon be listed at figures closer to 240, and the small block V8 that once seemed respectable was suddenly quoted at a feeble 165. On paper, it looked like the engines had been cut in half almost overnight. The muscle car, as everyone knew it, was dying, and the Monte Carlo was dying right along with it. Then, in 1973, the transformation into something soft and unrecognizable was complete. Chevrolet completely redesigned the Monte Carlo, and the new car told you everything you needed to know about where the world was heading. Gone were the clean, muscular lines. In their place came heavily sculpted, swollen fenders, huge, clumsy, federally mandated safety bumpers, and a padded vinyl roof with tiny little opera windows. The interior swapped its sporting pretensions for plush velour and pure, unapologetic comfort. The engines continued to be strangled year after year, their power draining away with each new regulation. The car that had once been a fearsome big block bruiser had become a soft, floaty, boulevard cruiser built purely for comfort. The muscle was gone. The soul had been surgically removed. And here is the cruelest, most ironic twist of the entire story. As the Monte Carlo lost its muscle and became a soft luxury car, it did not fail. In fact, it did the complete opposite. It sold in absolutely enormous numbers, far more than it ever did in its powerful glory days. Where the mighty SS 454 had sold only a few thousand units, the soft, comfortable, low-powered Malaise-era Monte Carlos sold hundreds of thousands. Year after year, as the power dropped and the car grew softer and more baroque, the sales figures climbed higher and higher, eventually reaching well over 400,000 cars in a single year. The public, it turned out, no longer wanted a fire-breathing muscle car. They wanted comfort, style, and a smooth, easy ride. And so, in a heartbreaking way, the Monte Carlo survived by abandoning everything that had once made it magnificent. It lived on, but as a completely different creature. And that is the bittersweet legacy of the first-generation Monte Carlo. For 2 shining years, from 1970 to 1971, it was one of the most brilliant and underrated muscle cars ever built, a perfect fusion of raw power and genuine class. It was the gentleman brawler, the sleeper in a tuxedo. And then the world changed, the regulations tightened, and the muscle was quietly stripped away, leaving behind only the luxury. For decades, these rare early cars were overlooked and forgotten, living in the long shadow of their more famous cousin, the Chevelle. In fact, for years, so many people saw the Monte Carlo as merely a fancy Chevelle that its precious big block engines were often ripped right out and dropped into Chevelles instead, and countless original SS 454s were quietly sacrificed and lost forever. It is one of the great tragedies of the collector world, and a big reason why a genuine, unmolested survivor is such a rare and treasured thing today. But the tide is finally turning. Collectors are at last waking up to just how special those first big block Monte Carlos truly were, and their value is climbing as the world remembers the brief, beautiful moment when Chevrolet built a muscle car fit for a king. So tell me down in the comments, did you know the elegant Monte Carlo was once a genuine big block monster? And would you take the classy SS 454 over a louder, flashier muscle car of the same era? I would love to hear your thoughts. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next story.